Good day, viewers. Today I'm up with a cake video. This cake I made a long back for a Facebook group gathering. The Facebook group Homemakers Bliss is a group with a lot of talented artists, and we decided to keep a meetup in a park. And then I decided to make this cake for the wonderful group. Now, Homemakers Bliss is a group with a lot of talented artists, and there are a lot of people with different talents like stitching, calligraphy artist, and there are even henna artists. I got wonderful reviews for the cake, and I was really excited about it. I was really happy also being to be a part of this wonderful group, as well as to be able to give a wonderful treat for all the wonderful artists. So let's see how I created this cake. First, let's look at how I made the calligraphy frame. So for the calligraphy frame, first I made the frame. For the frame, I cut out some fondant parts, and then to make give a little fancy details, I use some silicone molds with intricate details. And then I took a small piece of fondant and rolled over the design, and cut off the excess. Now you have to push the small pieces of fondant into every nook and corner of the design to get the best result possible, to get the best the designs, the details of the design, and really well. Now you can see the details came out really well. Now for the frame, I tried to give a calligraphy writing, be the magic. I tried to make the strokes as good as how the calligraphy artist does, and I used edible ink pen for this. This is available in all the baking stores. Now with some water, I'm going to give the borders to the frame. First, I gave using rectangular pieces of fondant, and then I will place over this the fancy details for the frame to look more prettier. Now one thing I want to tell you is that I made the details or the fondant accents that goes over top of the cake a few days ahead, so that it would have enough time. And also I was working, and this making the accessories fondant accents earlier really made my work easier. Now to note another thing, this here I made with the white fondant, and then I colored with gold, but I wasn't happy with the result, so I redid the design with light pink colored fondant. Here I brushed over the fondant accents using a little bit of water and gold luster dust, but in the end I wasn't happy with the result, so I redid it with pink colored fondant. different shades of gold luster dust which I had, and to give the best result. But for some reason I wasn't happy because I used water for painting the gold and the effect wasn't good enough. So I decided to redo the design, as I said earlier, in baby pink color. Now off to the pizza. This part of the cake was dedicated to all the wonderful food bloggers and food photographers of the group. So to make the pizza base, first I took a fondant and tinted it brown in color. I rolled it and cut it with a circle cutter to give a round edge to the pizza base. I gave another piece of fondant, and then I gave the pizza sauce topper using pink color. Then I cut some round black cutouts for the olives using piping nozzle. Then I cut some green colored fondant to make the bell peppers for the pizza base. I painted the pizza base with a little bit of red color to give more pizza sauce effect, and then pinched some yellow fondant to give the mozzarella cheese effect. Also, I placed all the olives and the bell peppers over the pizza. To give the burned edges to the pizza, I painted the pizza base with brown color. Next, I made the embroidery hoop. There were a lot of embroidery hoop artists in the group, so for them I made this embroidery hoop. I made a white colored center and a brown border. I cut off the border using a circle cutter again, and then I made some embroidery roses. Then I rolled out some thin piece of fondant to give the running stitch like effect, and then twisted two pieces of the fondant together so that it would look like some running stitch. I arranged the piece in a heart shape and then placed the embroidery roses randomly. I made some green leaves as well for the roses. Another important part of the embroidery hoop is its metallic part, which is silver in color. For this, I rolled out thin piece of white fondant and cut it into rectangular shape. I don't know how to explain it. I just referred to some pictures of embroidery hoop and tried to recreate the design. So I made the metallic parts using some thin rectangular shapes, and then cut off a thin circle in the on the side of it. The embroidery hoop also has some bolt like thing, and for that I rolled out thin piece of fondant, and again I rolled it thin, a thin cylindrical shape. I also made sure that this thin cylindrical shape would fit into the circle which we cut earlier. Next, I made the nut of the embroidery hoop. So I cut it into circle shape first, and then to give a hexagon like shape, I trimmed the edges accordingly. Now I wasn't having much idea how would I rearrange this on top of the topper. It was late night and I was too tired. So later I realized I could have used a toothpick to fix all the pieces together. Now for this I painted the white piece of fondant using a little bit of lemon essence and silver luster dust which I had in hand, and then I painted the pieces of the metallic pieces of the embroidery hoop. Now it's time to fix all these parts. Using some water, I arranged the metallic parts of the embroidery hoop. As I said, I could have used a toothpick to keep the things in place, which I realized very late after the design was done. It would have given the hoop a better finish, and it would have been easier. This took really long while for me to keep the parts in place. So the embroidery hoop is ready. This was a cake I made, a chocolate cake, and I made some white chocolate ganache. I set the white chocolate ganache at room temperature before I frosted it, and this was going to be a 2-tier cake. Now on the cake base, I arranged the cake coated with white chocolate ganache. To give support to the top tier, I inserted some bubble tea straws and cut it the perfect size of the bottom tier. For the top tier, I frosted the cake with pink colored whipped cream. Now while picking up the cake to arrange over the bottom tier, I actually slipped the cake and it fell onto the table, and then I had to refrost it again. Now inserted a straw from the bottom of the top tier so that this straw could go all the way around to the bottom tier of the cake. This would give more support to the cake. This cake also had a cake board which is exact size of the cake beneath it, and also I made a hole in the center of the cake board for the straw to pass all the way down to the bottom tier of the cake. I recommend to frost the cake way ahead of time so that you will have enough time for the whipped cream to set and arrange the fondant accessories. As you can see, I arranged the top tier of the cake over the base tier and then inserted that straw all the way down through both the tiers. So this would serve as a very good support for both the tiers, and the cake wouldn't move. I took the cake very far from home to the place of destination. Now I'm rolling out some white fondant and tinting it a light purple color. This is for the curtains for over the cake. Now why I decided to do curtains is to give a fancy separation to all the accessories I'm going to add. So first I measured the height of the bottom tier using a popsicle stick, and then I measured accordingly and then cut it and then made the frills to make the curtain. Now after placing the curtains, now it's time to keep the pieces which we have made earlier. So first goes the calligraphy frame, which is dedicated to all the calligraphy artists of the Facebook group. Next, I'm going to insert the embroidery hoop. I am also going to insert next a piece of outfit which I made using fondant. This was easy, I couldn't videograph it. Then the pizza for all the food bloggers of the group. For all the henna artists of the group, I made a small hand model and drew a henna design using edible sketch pen, and also a small piece of cake which was dedicated to all the bakers of the group. So this is how the cake looked. Now to give the final touches, I used my bead mold and rolled thin snake of fondant and inserted into the bead mold. You have to trim off the excess before you take it off. I dusted it with pearl dust to give a pearly finish. This went over to the base of the top tier. Now to give a finishing to the curtains, I made the fancy fondant accessory which I made earlier and fitted on top of it. So this is it, guys. This is how I made the cake. It took me really a number of days to finish the cake from start to finish. You have to make, if for such a detailed cake, it's better you make the fondant accents earlier so that you don't have to panic on the day of dispatch. But all this was fun making. I hope you also had fun watching this video. Please do give a thumbs up. Bye and see you in the next video.